Optimum Security Professionals is 5 years old. Wow. Tears came from making this journey for sure. So my wife Shaunta and I decided to sit down and just share with you guys our story, our journey, our trials, tribulations, as well as our victories and our triumphs.
Welcome, greetings. My name is Shaunta Andrews. I am the Director of Business for Optimum Security Professionals. And I'm joined here by my husband, Marshall Isom, President, CEO of Optimum Security Professionals. Marshall, before we get started, we want to most definitely thank our gracious hosts, the Gent Spot. Owners Paco and Mel have been so gracious to provide us with this opportunity to sit down and celebrate 5 years of business. So, Marshall, how are you doing?
I'm excited. I'm doing well. Thank you. What's up,
Good.
baby? You all right?
Good. 5 years. How does that feel?
It's exciting to make this benchmark. 5 years is significant, especially in the middle of a pandemic. You have businesses closing, especially black businesses. It's like 40% of black businesses are closing. So to be able to celebrate 5 years in the midst of this, I'm excited, enthused, encouraged, all of the above.
Awesome, awesome. So you touched on some great points. Celebration during a pandemic, you know, being a black business thriving still during this time while we see so many others fail. And so something that comes to mind is how'd you get here? What's your backstory? People need to know that you just didn't pop on the scene.
Right.
So take a moment and let's talk about young Marshall.
Mm.
Who's that guy? We know he got here, but how did he start out?
Woo! My origin story. Right?
Yes,
So they're gonna
Wolverine.
have a movie about this one day.
All right.
I'm a producer. Tell my own story. Well, my family is originally from Mobile, Alabama, right? So my family came to Houston for greater opportunities, and so they brought me along and my sister, very young. Sister Moeshe, unfortunately, she passed
Yes.
in '89, but we came here for greater opportunities, a bigger city. Being from Mobile and moving to the fourth largest city, I'm sure for my parents was everything, and it's been everything for them. They've done really, really well.
Awesome.
So I come from a family of entrepreneurs, a family of go-getters. We're always talking about business, so it was kind of naturally for me to find myself here, even though I didn't know it being young, but it was very natural. So
Now you say you didn't know it. Now I've heard some stories of you selling candy.
right.
So I mean, you didn't know it or you didn't think you knew it.
No, I
Because you
mean,
were
you don't
an
know what you're
entrepreneur.
doing. You just you find you're finding ways to not ask your parents for money. You're maybe you're seeing the need and you're feeling the need, but you don't know you're an entrepreneur. You just man, people run
But
to
I
the
would
store.
challenge you to say an entrepreneur sees the need.
Right.
So you saw a need in school.
Saw the opportunity to make some money, so that I don't have to ask my mom and dad for $2, $5, $10, and hear them say no.
Now that reminds me, I've heard the story of your grandmother and her entrepreneurial spirit and the influence it has on you. So she clearly saw a need. What was that need?
So my grandmother, who passed away in 2016, um, awesome personality, awesome person. Um, she's in a room, you wouldn't know it until she has that punchline,
I've
and
been
then
witness to that punchline.
it's just like, oh, bam, full of wisdom, grace, beauty, life lessons, um, and still get down with you. You act up, you're gonna have to go out and get your own switch.
Oh, okay, it's real Southern.
Right. And if the switch ain't big enough, she gonna go out and get the branch.
Okay.
So you learn. Let me get a decent enough switch and just take what I've earned. But I didn't know she was an entrepreneur at the time either. But I saw her doing business. Right.
Okay.
I saw um, she owned a transportation company. So she worked in Mississippi, and what she would do is transport her coworkers that lived in Mobile, Alabama, to Mississippi to work on the shipyard. She was a welder. So we didn't know that the 4 or 5 buses, the 15 passenger vans outside and were a business. We just knew grandma got something
That's what
going
she
on.
did.
Yeah, that's just what she did. We knew she was a welder. We knew what she did for a living, but we didn't know that she was enterprising. We didn't know that she was a business owner, right?
Okay.
My sister and I, we also used to make sandwiches and create brown bag lunches, and we didn't know she was selling them for a profit, So that's the food service.
Okay.
But
So she incorporated the family in.
I mean, she filled the need. I think, in my imagination, I see her going to work every day and noticing there's 30, 40 people driving from the same city pulling up in the lot. I can service that. I can make money from that. I can solve an issue with, this type of commute and just making it happen. I can also see her driving the vans, and what somebody said, hey, can you stop to the store? I just need to get some juice or get some snack, or I forgot my lunch, and she's boom,
Okay.
the light bulb going out again and saying, I can provide these things. I know the chips that they like, the sodas and the water and the juice that they like, and we ain't stopping nowhere.
So you see the thought process in it and how she gets to the point.
Absolutely.
From just transportation to adding meals. She's constantly seeing where the service is needed.
Right.
So how did you start to see where the service was needed for optimum security professionals to come about?
So working in the security industry since 2009, originally I had the aspirations to become a cop, like my dad. Dad's 39 years, Harris County Sheriff's Office. Seeing him in uniform, my whole life. It's just one of those things that you are gravitating towards, even though you really don't understand it. But you're like, I see service in there. I see pride in there. I see the respect that he gets. And so, yeah, I want that too, right? So in the process of going to the police academy and graduating and finishing, that top of my class, and enjoying the camaraderie of the class and so on and so forth, I said, okay, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. And actually, policing, I would say, is the best thing that never happened for me, because as a result, optimum security professionals happened. So,
Okay.
becoming a security officer, as a result of just wanting to make money at nighttime, because I ran the valet company at the time, Cruise Control Valet.
Right.
So the thought
Another
process,
entrepreneur.
right? Yeah, just filling the need. But the thought process came in. I want to run the business in the daytime, and I want to be able to supplement money and have a job at night, right? You work in the graveyard shift, 10 to 6 in the morning. You get out, you take a nap, you wake up, and you can still do business. You can still service the restaurants and the parties. You can still recruit. You can still do all those things.
Right.
And then go to work, at night. And through working in the security industry, I started to see that I had a passion for it. I had a knack for it. I saw it as a profession. I started to meet people who had grown in the profession and gotten greater certifications and got into bodyguard work, and we talked about the money involved with the operations managers and accounts managers, and I started to see like, oh, this is a whole business going on.
Right.
It's a whole worldwide thing.
Yeah, I remember you starting. I remember the first site that I knew you were working at was way on the north side of Houston, and you were out there being a security guard. And I remember when you reached out to me, I thought, Uncle Otis,
Right.
Paul, Bart, Walcott, but then your personality, the professionalism that you bring to an atmosphere. Of course, I didn't see that, that traditional or stereotypical
security guard, right? No,
I saw you, and I remember, as time progressed, we had a conversation as you worked for different companies. You started to see that you could bring something different to the game,
Right.
so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you could be the LeBron of I know LeBron's his favorite player. That's why I said that.
Right.
You could be the LeBron of security. So before we go back into your education and things like that, something I want to touch on that you just brought up briefly.
Mhm.
You saw your grandmother saw a need. She fulfilled that need.
Right.
Um, Optimum security. You saw a need. You began on a plan to fulfill that need. So now here we are in a pandemic, and you're fulfilling the need. How has that? How does that need changed as time has progressed for you? 5 years. The need year one is most definitely not the need for year five. Am I right?
Well, the need changes as the criminal element becomes more sophisticated, becomes more eager, becomes more dangerous.
Okay.
So technology is brought um, in different aspects of security, a heightened sense of awareness, given the state of times, comes in. So it's not so much that the job of the security officer changes because you're still responsible for the patrols, for the access controls, for the reports, things of that nature. But you have more tools. You have apps now. Right? You can use. You don't just have to be sitting at a desk to view the CCTV. There are apps that
That help you.
stream to your phone.
So as technology grows, so does your industry grow, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And you keep up with the times. You keep your pulse on what's going on in your industry, and you move with the innovation, or you get to the point where you become an innovator. You start experimenting and putting money into research and development, things of that nature. So then you can become, on the front line of new innovations in the
So you evolve
security
with the
industry.
times.
Absolutely.
Speaking of evolving with the times, so
Okay.
I personally know some of your backstory, and I know, like we briefly talked about, cruise control valet.
All right.
So cruise control valet came about during your college years,
All right.
and so let's talk about your college years and what it meant for you to attend Texas Southern University, or the
Texas Southern University. Absolutely. Shout out to the Tigers. At the time, we didn't really know what we were experiencing, but as I look back, and of course, being in 2020 now, the HBCU experience is like a Wakanda.
So
It's Wakanda forever. So when you watch the movie and you really see Wakanda, and you see, well, the king, and his family is black. The servants are black. The army is black. The people, when they were walking through the city, the service people were black. And you get that feeling like, wow, this is a whole society with every aspect moving and exchanging, but it's a black society. It's the same thing at the HBCU because your president is black, your Lambo is blue. Okay, that's a joke. Uh, But
So,
you don't realize it at the time, but the police force is blue. Your professors, your police force is black.
okay.
Your
I was
professors,
like, are we?
police force is blue and black at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So your professors are black. Your everyone that's working at the student center, at the store, the people serving food. Just the everything, right?
So I personally attended a PWI, as you know,
Right.
Texas A&M University.
That's cool. It's wonderful. I think it's a great university.
Yes,
Great
and
Texas
so
institution.
I understand the aspect, as we have a daughter who's currently attending a HBCU,
Right. That's just
and a
pride.
son attending a PWI.
Right. So there's just a
Um,
house divided, so to speak.
so what do you think that experience brought to your life? Because I know you went to a high school here in Houston, Missouri City area.
Yeah, Mo City. So shout out to everybody in Mo City. What's going on? Briargate, for sure. Willow Ridge, what's up? Graduated from Westbury. Can't leave that out. Got to show love. I spent a year there. That was a great experience.
So you did time on both sides.
I did time at Westbury. But Paco knows me from Willow Ridge. A lot of my roots are from Willow Ridge. And yeah, that's another all black experience. Growing up in Missouri City, we didn't know it at the time, but it was an experiment of black middle class. It was an experiment of black suburbia, right? We didn't realize that it wasn't black suburbia is all across the United States in the 70s and 80s.
Okay.
Right? So, and then, new housing developments and things of that nature. But it's still a rewarding experience to look back and say, well, the principal of my high school was black, of my middle school was black, all my teachers were black, the coaches of all the programs, and of course, you had some white teachers, some Hispanic teachers, but for the most part, the majority was black.
So you feel like that created a pride or
Absolutely.
something, just seeing people of that you can relate to culturally that look like you, that were not just workers in one particular aspect, but from the top to the bottom, so to speak.
Well, it showed me that we can do a lot. Not so to speak that we can do everything, because of course, growing up in the 80s and the 90s, you saw some of the glass ceilings. You didn't see us everywhere, but in your immediate vicinity, you did see us everywhere in the neighborhood, everywhere at the school, everywhere where you were, you saw us. So I never thought that I couldn't be a principal of a school. I never thought I could not be a police officer. I never thought that I could not do pretty much what I put my mind to. It was never a barrier growing up. I never thought that there was something, an aspect of life or society that I could not attain. That was just never a thought of mine. I knew that there would be some barriers, there would be some walls you have to knock down, some obstacles you have to figure out to go up or down or around, but I never thought it was something that I could not.
Now you brought up, you could see yourself, whether it was a principal or a police officer. Now I personally know you started out your educational career in education.
Right.
And then you transitioned.
Yep.
Tell
I
us
spent
about
some time as Coach Isom. That was cool.
Tell us about that transition and what made you say business was the route for you.
So being a kid that sold candy, cut yards, washed cars, took out trash, having run a valet company, having run a lawn care company, I did that in college as well. My mind has always been on the business end of things, as far as the greater opportunities, right?
Okay.
So when you're working in a school, when you're working in a classroom, you're working in a box, and you're limited to what the curriculum is, what you're told to teach. You're limited to the types of interactions that you can have with the children to get really, really involved. You can't be a mentor. You really have to just do the 9 to 5, so to speak, or it's school, so you're doing the 7 to 3 gig. And for me, I sat many days and was like, man, this is not it.
So
Not that this can't be it. This can't be it. I knew this wasn't it. Right. And so I just thought, man, this is something that's good for now. This is something that's paying the bills now.
Before we take a break, as I hear you say that, so that was something that you couldn't see the long term. That was a short term.
Yeah, I couldn't see that
achievement.
long term. No.
So when we come back, we're going to talk about how you transition from the short term to now what's your long term. The entrepreneurship, the business of being an entrepreneur, because that's a business in itself, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
All right, so we're going to take a small break, and then we're going to come back and talk more with Marshall as he just gives us more insight into himself and Optimum Security Professionals. Thank you.
To our promise keepers, times are uncertain, businesses are closed, homes are schools and offices for now. Yet you are still serving on the front line of it all, tall and strong. I appreciate your courage and tenacity. At the core of my thoughts is the health and well-being of you and your family as you protect our essential, critical infrastructure clients. You are needed now more than ever. Please remember to wash your hands often, avoid touching your face, wear your PPE properly, clean and disinfect your work area, and stay at home if you start to feel ill. As information on this crisis is updated, we are enhancing our procedures to ensure your health and safety while you continue to provide customer service-oriented protection. You are the very heart of our brand. So, on behalf of the entire Optimum Security Professionals family, thank you. I am proud of you and want you to know that you are heroes. Together, we will rise.
So we left off, you were telling us about starting off in education and seeing the need change for you
Right.
and starting to, I don't want to say get that entrepreneur bug, because I feel like you already had it, like you talked about the candy, the lawn service. So cruise control valet.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's when we met.
that's where we met,
Right.
where we started our thing.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about how did that come about and how did that influence you to now?
So, being a student at Texas Southern, going to parties, you go to parties and you see the parking is messed up. Right,
Okay.
cars a little bit of everywhere, and people bumping into each other. There's no, one way, or it's just completely unorganized. And having been a valet attendant for another company, a gentleman by the name of Philip Freer, who taught me everything, was a mentor to me, and still Uncle Philip, right, Uncle Phil. Um, in having that experience, I went to him and said, "Hey, man, I think you can. There's a market in the college arena for you to do your business." And he said, "Hey, I'm not interested, man, but if you're interested, I'll help you get started. I'll tell you where to get the tickets and the cones and the whole idea of parking management plans, and so on and so forth, your insurances." And I already had the background in business from the lawn care service. So I said, well, man, absolutely, because I've already reached out to them, the fraternities and some of the sororities having a party, and they were interested.
Excuse
Right,
me.
the deal was already done, and so that started Cruise Control Valet at that moment, where he said, "Man, why don't you do it? I'm not interested in it," and we just ran from there. And because we're on the college campus, we immediately had the fraternities. Nobody else was doing it. And that spilled over to doing business with businesses, because the fraternities would rent out event venues. It would
Okay.
rent out bars and clubs, and they said, "Oh man, you guys do valet. Can you do valet for us?" Absolutely. And that went from contract to contract. And then you start to meet people and realize that, man, this is a legit business. This is more than just the fraternities. We're doing the Reef Restaurant. We're doing hotel. What's the hotel downtown? Forget that hotel. We're doing the Red Cat Jazz Cafe. We're doing crawfish festivals, and it's just growing
Right.
and growing and growing. And so that really, really gave me the thought process that entrepreneurship in business is the way to go for me. That
Awesome.
it's the thing. It's the thing. I've hit that trail.
Right. So you've identified your lane.
Yeah, Lane, trail, absolutely, yeah.
You've identified your lane. Awesome. So, optimum security professionals.
Mhm.
Um, the name. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
Well, you know about that name. So, well, the story to the world. My wife and I, we were sitting and discussing the idea of security, and I knew the name is everything. The name is everything, just like cruise control valet, just like holy ground landscaping. I had
Oh, that
that
was the name
company,
of the landscape?
holy ground.
Holy ground.
Holy ground. It's, immediately, it's a sacred ground. We're making your ground a sacred space, right?
Okay.
So names are everything. Names are um, what a brand can derive from, a story can derive from. You want to be very, very careful with naming your business. It does no good to just say we're going to be this valet or this security and not put great thought into it. So I brought to the table ultimate security professionals. Professionals was very important to me because I wanted to tell the story of being a professional company, right? Being a professional security officer, being a professional security service provider. So professionals was always in there, but my word was ultimate. My wife's word was
Optimum.
optimum. So you tell us about where optimum came from.
Well, we were just talking and brainstorming. I remember we were riding on I-10, and the truth be told, I had a FSA account with my employer at that time
Okay.
with a company called Optum Banks.
There you go.
And I started thinking, we were talking about what did we want that first part to mean, and optimum being the top, the best.
Right.
We didn't want to be top flight security,
Right.
but we did want to represent the best and
Yeah.
the ultimate top.
Right.
And so I didn't like ultimate,
Right.
but
Yeah.
I liked the feel of optimum.
As soon as you said optimum, it was like that's it.
Right. You said
That's
you
it.
were
That
like,
wasn't even really
"That's
in my
it."
lexicon. It wasn't in my sphere of thinking of optimum. But as soon as you said it, I'm like, oh yes.
That's
We,
it.
we don't even use the word optimum like we should. That we'll say elite, we'll say best in class, we'll say all those things. But yeah, that's optimum. And then when I started doing my search of businesses and so on and so forth that had optimum, that made it all the more destined, right? Because it was no optimum security,
It's predestined, as they like to say.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So part of my background is in HR, as you know. And so we've all been on the side where we've been sitting in someone's office trying to get a job.
Mm.
And many times, more than none, for me, I've often been sitting in an office and I saw the mission, the vision, the philosophy.
Right.
And I read it and I wanted to know about it because I wanted to talk about it when I went into the interview, right? So, what's Optimum's? Optimum's vision, philosophy, and what do you want people to read and see and take from that about Optimum Security?
So through education and experience, I knew a business needed a mission, vision, and philosophy, right? So the Texas Southern School of Business talked about that in what motivated companies, pushed companies, how did they use branding in customer relations as well as employees. So it was always in the back of my mind that you needed a mission to establish what it is that you're doing. A vision, how are you going to move that vision to get to the space you want it to be in? And then the philosophy of how are you going to get there? What's the vehicle of it? And then core values. How are you going to go about your everyday getting to it in your vehicle? And so from that, being in the security industry for a number of years, one thing that hit was the reestablishing the status quo. That's always resonated in my mind because when you think of a security officer, the public perception is low.
Like what I brought up. What
right,
I thought
top
about
flight
immediately,
security of the world, right? The mall BARTs, and things of that nature. And so, um, being in a position where I was always serious about my job, I never liked any of that. But I understood where it came from, because when you do go to the parking lot and the apartments, and you see the guy just, what is he doing? He's sitting down, he's on his phone, he got stains on his uniform, and you're like, man, what's that about?
Well, he's certainly not an optimum security professional.
No, he's not, right? So I knew the mission had to be reestablishing the status quo. Everything that we would do would go about reestablishing that security officers uh, are essential to society. We play a role that you can't do without. Security, it's ancient. We are the first when it comes to asset protection, and there you always hear about the King's Guard, and you hear about the Praetorian Guard and things of that nature. Those are security officers, right? So the modern day security officer has taken kind of a back step to the police officer. But when you look at private properties, when you look at the elite persons in our society, when you look at the large businesses, they can't run without security, right? So we needed to reestablish the status quo.
Okay.
As far as the philosophy, I sat for a long time and thought, what would be the vehicle getting us to the vision? And that's when I thought of customer service oriented protection. How we do what we do. 95% of security is customer service. It's being familiar with your property, with your client. It's knowing where the restrooms are. It's knowing where the customer service booth is. It's um, being an ambassador for your client, an extension for your client. That's the customer service.
Excuse me. Go ahead.
That's the customer service aspect of security, right? And then you have the response side of things. Something has occurred, or we saw something suspicious, so we go about that a particular way. And so customer service oriented protection was the philosophy that we were going to go about our job. We were going to be ambassadors for the client, right?
Okay.
And arm for the client. And then the vision of police, security, and the community all coming together as one to protect the interests of the people in the community. So the vision was to be the type of security company that would reach out to law enforcement, reach out to fire, reach out to the community leaders, understand not just the one business where we are, but the community at large. And so once all those came together, I knew like we got something. We got something pretty
Right.
big.
I know as whenever I get the opportunity to speak with future employees, that's one of the biggest things I try to impart on them, just having already from previous work experience worked for other security companies. And I know that's not even really stressed or spoken about, but when you get to your Fortune 500 companies, those are pillars of their foundation as far
Absolutely, right.
as their building blocks. That's something they always go back to whenever they're looking about growth, whenever they're looking at how do they keep moving, what do they need to do different, or what do they need to do better.
Right.
You know, I have a practice of stop, start, and continue.
Right.
And a lot of that is built off of your mission, your vision, and your core values and your philosophy. So,
Stop, start, and continue. Right. Let's just deal with that. Things you need to stop,
right?
things you need to start, and things that you need to continue doing.
Right.
Right. So we talk about that often. Things we need to stop doing.
Right.
Stop. Don't do that no more.
Not working.
That's not working. Things we need to start doing. Like here is an idea, an innovation. Here's a magazine article that I read about it. Here's an original thought that I came. And then we do these things very, very well. Let's continue to do those.
Right.
Things.
Exactly.
All right, cool. Just want to make sure everybody
Understands. Stop, start, and continue. All right. So something that I think is important as we kind of get more current up to date, because the company's been progressing. Let's talk about who are your clients? Who's coming for optimum security professionals? Because as we've talked, you know, this is a $600 billion industry. the market share is really cornered by a couple of people,
Right,
a
right.
couple
Got
of large companies.
couple of large companies that got the $1 billion market
Market.
shares, and then you have thousands of us that have the smaller
But
pieces of
there
the
are
puzzle.
people who are making an executive decision and choosing us,
Right.
optimum security professionals. Who are those people?
So speaking of clients, in our 5th year anniversary, I have to give a shout out to Marcus Davis in the Breakfast Club. He's my first client. Um, I I'm always just so grateful of that relationship. Marcus being who he is to the community, right? And then thinking when I came to him, all I had was the formation of the company and then a promise that I can do this thing, right? And for him to say, hey, thumbs up, man, yes, you know, and 5 years later, we're still servicing the Breakfast Club, Alley Cat, Culture, any one of um, his his restaurants and ventures. So, love that, love that.
All right.
But man, everyone is our customer that is a business that has assets that need to be protected, right? So we're not just clubs and bars. That's a particular lane, but we're not just clubs and bars. I never wanted to brand the company as being a club only security company. So we're proud to be in Baytown and LaPorte, of course, with Revigo, which is a huge, that blows my mind every time I think about it, because Revigo is the second largest plastic manufacturer in the Western Hemisphere, right? Just to think of that, second largest in the Western Hemisphere
Right.
is a client of ours. Finding us online, going through the process of submitting the proposals and getting the opportunity was just amazing. Delta Chemicals is a client. Going through that process and beating out a former employer. So knowing that
That always feels good.
I mean, number one and number two up for the job as a former employer, and I'm like, oh my God, man, it's the largest security company in the United States. Like, but I'm gonna be confident about it. I'm in the table, right? I'm on the table. I'm in the room. I'm being considered.
Right.
So that's awesome. In going forward and thinking about office buildings, thinking about sports franchises, getting deeper into the Port of Houston, or even expanding into other cities, Dallas, Austin, El Paso, Amarillo, Beaumont, as far as Texas is concerned. Getting to the point where we break from Texas and we go out and we become a multi-state company, international. Um, so the growth is there. We just need to take one step at a time. We're playing Monopoly, right? So we're pass and go. And as we get an opportunity to bid, we take those opportunities. We continue to do what we're doing, and then we grow from that point.
Okay. So here we are. 5 years, and your 5th year, or our 5th year, 2020 has been a hell of a year.
Yeah, yeah.
I know, like many businesses, we experienced some challenges, but I remember you wanting to make sure that not just the public, but that our staff knew that we understood that this time was different.
Right.
So you did a video that I think is just phenomenal.
Thank you, baby. Appreciate it.
So tell us about that video. Where can we see it? And what made you shoot it? What made you, because we had other businesses, so your big brands, Walmart, other companies, but we didn't really see security companies or even local companies saying something.
So the idea of the video was born from brainstorming on a great way to communicate um, to the employees about COVID-19, right? So we needed to communicate to all the officers. We needed um, to teach them OSHA regulations. We needed to encourage them. We needed to be a point of information about this new thing going on, right? So we're doing all kind of information, And I knew just phone calls,
Excuse me.
text messages, orientations wasn't going to be enough. I've always wanted to be innovative, always wanted to think about something different. And so the first idea was kind of do just broadcasting live and just talk to a camera and then send that. And then I got into more of, man, I want to tell a story. I want people to see us in uniform. I want the officers to be able to see themselves. And so that was the foundation of, let me create this story. Let me tell this narrative of what it means to be a essential worker, a frontline worker. Remember, that was real big. Who's frontline? What
Right.
does it mean to be frontline? And coming up with a concept, sitting down with Travis and putting my thoughts down, and he and I going back and forth. Shout out to Travis Music, and that's where it was born. And it just came together. It was natural. Everybody wanted to be involved in it, and Travis did a wonderful job with the angles and being able to tell the story. And
Right.
so it's a communication to security officers that we know you're essential, we know you're on the front lines. Thank you for doing what you're doing, and be careful as you're out there protecting the interests of our clients, because you are fathers and mothers and husband and wives, boyfriend and girlfriends, daughters and sons, and so you need to go home safe, but you need to also know that optimum security professionals, we care, we understand. All right.
I
So,
think that's most definitely, that was conveyed most definitely, that there was a concern, there was a regard, and not only were we concerned about the safety of the people that we were in charge of or protection of their items, but we were also concerned about the people who we employ.
all right.
Um, and a lot of times, entrepreneurs don't always have employees.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And so because you have to be grateful for the service of your employees, you have to do things to retain your employees. You have to do special things to let them know that you're just not out there getting a check, and we're not thinking about you. Especially during a pandemic where so many questions and concerns are coming out. That's very important to say, hey, we hear the concerns, we're doing the research, and we're communicating with you, but we do care enough to do, something a little bit more to let you know
right,
that,
that you're appreciated.
that you are very appreciated.
I agree. I agree. So, we're going to get close to a point where we're going to take a break, but I want to talk about um, how we do what we do. Many security companies, whenever I'm interviewing people, they talk about whatever their experience is with the other company.
Mm-hmm.
They write on paper, they do everything, but we've tried to be advanced, I would say, or you've tried to be in advance in your pursuit.
It's 2020. We're well into the 21st century, right? So you can't do 20th century things in the 21st century.
So we use an app, right?
Right.
And I think it's an awesome relationship that we have with the company that we use and how we do our services.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit more about Officer Reports.
So Officer Reports is a contractor of ours, a vendor. They provide our app technology where we do our reports, incident reports, daily activity reports. The officers clock in and out, view their schedule, things of that nature, from their phones. So long gone are the times where you have the printout schedule and the printout daily report and things of that nature. Everything is app-based. That relationship is real cool because it began with me looking for another black-owned business in that space. It's the beginning foundation of the company. I know we wanted to go app-based, so I'm doing research, and to come across officerreports.net and Courtney, the owner, to read about his history, and he just started a year before. So I was really excited just to see, man, this company is new. So I'm like a founding, client of theirs. I knew it would be a special relationship, not because it's two black-owned businesses, but even just two small businesses or new
Starting out
business.
together, kind of.
Right. So reaching out to him was awesome. He had been in the security industry prior to, he had been an owner. And so his next evolution was the management side of it, right?
Right.
And not just the service side of it. So that's what drew him into creating the app. And that's just been a great relationship. In one of the great selling points of Optimum Security Professionals is that we are app-based, we are advanced, we do use technology in order to protect the client's assets.
Okay. So something that you brought up, you sought out to find a black business to do business with, to patronize with. In this pandemic, we've seen so many social media sites, so many people making a planned effort in this pandemic to find black businesses. We really saw it here in the Houston area where people were really trying to seek out black-owned restaurants because we couldn't go out anywhere, we couldn't hang out anywhere,
Right.
so we decided to go eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how has that been for you? Have people been seeking out?
Oh, absolutely. We've gotten new business in the pandemic. Aldi is a client during the pandemic. Memorial Towers has been a new client during the pandemic. Some of the new events, like that want to be innovative in the event space, has reached out to us, and they've told us we specifically look to see is there a black-owned security guard company, and not just that, but is there a good company that just happened to be black-owned, right? And that's what we are. It's not a black-owned business. We are a great business, great service provider. We just happen to be black owners.
Okay.
So that's great in that space. And we also, it's always important to network and to see who you can help grow in your community, right? So Houston Forward Times, they blessed us with an ad that Jay-Z and his whole Rock Nation team put together. That was cool to be on that ad. That was a nationwide push for him that he paid for, right? So that spurs business because not that he didn't have to do it, but the thought process was, let me put some money behind your local area. He's in New York or wherever he is in the world, but to reach out to all these major cities and to make sure that black firms had that type of advertising was cool.
Right.
So it reminds me that we should keep, pressing in the advertising space. We've used DMARS in the past. Shout out to Keith Davis Sr., who's been a great community partner with us. And it's also one of the ideas behind the pandemic video because it's a commercial. It tells the story about us. And so we want to draw business from that.
Okay. So before we take our break, I thank you so much. I think people have a better insight to Optimum Security and its growth and how we got started. Next, we want to kind of just talk about where do you see us going? What's next? What's on your horizon?
What's next?
So we're going to take a small break. And but before we do, I kind of want to touch on something that you brought up that I think is just awesome, is that you are seeking out businesses that not just are minority owned or black owned, but that are good businesses.
Absolutely.
And I think there's a reason for that, and I want you to kind of expound on your experience of what good business is.
When we come back?
We'll be back.
To our Promise Keepers, times are uncertain, businesses are closed, homes are schools and offices for now. Yet you are still serving on the front line of it all, tall and strong. I appreciate your courage and tenacity. At the core of my thoughts is the health and well-being of you and your family as you protect our essential, critical infrastructure clients. You are needed now more than ever. Please remember to wash your hands often, avoid touching your face, wear your PPE properly, clean and disinfect your work area, and stay at home if you start to feel ill. As information on this crisis is updated, we are enhancing our procedures to ensure your health and safety. while you continue to provide customer service or unit protection. You are the very heart of our brand. So, on behalf of the entire Optimum Security Professionals family, thank you. I am proud of you and want you to know that you are heroes. Together, we will rise.
So we're back having a intimate but public conversation about Optimum Security Professionals. Check us out, www.axosp.com. So Marshall, we talked about good business. Good business moves forward. Good business doesn't just help the community, but good business helps its family. How do you see, or how have you seen your business or our business help our family?
Our business. Well, it's been an amazing experience to be able to pull you out of corporate America.
Thanks.
So you're working full time and to ping pong with you on a day-to-day basis. It's been amazing. I'm like, man, this is my wife, and we're solving problems, and we're working together, and we're building, and I couldn't ask for much more than that. But then also to have Dion and Taylor, our son and daughter, working for the company, takes it to a whole nother level because
Wait, I have to stop you there. Our 6-year-old works for the company too.
she
She
shreds.
is our
She
personal
shreds
shredder.
papers and things of that nature.
Cannot leave Mac out.
Can't leave Mackenzie out. But specifically, Dion being a young adult, looking for job opportunities and not having to go and fill out applications elsewhere, but having a job and having a well-paying job, having a job to develop and be serious because he's doing a great service, right? He's learning. To be a part of that is amazing. Like to see him in the uniform when he goes to work, I'm just like, man, something that I created is benefiting the next generation.
So it's kind
To
of,
see
I'm sorry, go ahead.
to see Taylor as well, new to the business, being her first year in college and being home from college, first thing you want to do is get a job. So normally you would fill out the application, you'll go out there, you'll have that experience where, hey, I'm going to look for a job today. I'm filling out applications. Sometimes you'll come back and like, I filled out 6, 10 applications, went on 2 interviews, and I hadn't heard back from the company. That's a stress. Taylor's completely stress-free because here is a job opportunity for you. Go through the training processes and everything, do all that licensing, and then come to work. And you're
Right.
working for your parents. That's immensely rewarding to see. And we're just beginning to see what Dion can bring to the table sometime in the future after he finishes his undergrad and his master's in business, in international business. He has some things that he can teach me. I'm looking forward
Right.
to that. So that's the greatest thing.
Awesome, awesome. I'm excited to see our children. You brought up how you and your sister helped your grandmother, and you really didn't understand what you were doing.
Right.
I think it's the part of the growth and the lesson is for us to teach our kids and for them to know what they're a part of
Right.
and what we're building and what the legacy a part of it, right? So we're creating a legacy. So in creating a legacy, you can't just stop at 5. So what do you see for the next 5 years?
The 5-year plan includes expansion. Not just, of course, expanding the market in Houston, but again, like I said before, you have Beaumont down I-10, you have San Antonio, you have Austin, Dallas, expanding. We get a greater market share of the Texas market, right? That's very, very important. And not just with OSP, but then branching out into other businesses. There are other needs that the city has. And so not just being pigeonholed and not just being known for one thing, but seeing this as a foundational tool to grow into other businesses and to just expand as a entrepreneur, as a businessman, and to solve some of those other problems that are out there. Right, so that's definitely next in business in general.
Okay.
Specifically with OSP, I want her to be just all she can be in
You said
polishing
her. Now
her.
I know we have
OSP is her.
we
She's a
have
she.
Oswaldo,
Is
the mascot.
Yeah,
Is
Oswaldo.
Oswaldo?
So thank you for Oswaldo. So the next evolution of the company definitely includes Oswaldo, who is a mascot. Right, he is an owl. There's a whole great story behind us having an owl and not an eagle and things of that nature, like other security companies.
The night
But
watchman.
but the night watchman is an owl, right? So that's our mascot, and the idea is to bring him to schools as the 21st century version of McGruff, the crime dog.
Okay.
So teaching social skills, safety tools and techniques to kids um, through Oswaldo, Officer Ozzy,
Awesome.
Captain Ozzy.
Captain
Yeah,
Oz.
that's definitely a project that we're looking to get into within the next 18 months or so, and that's going to be real big. I'm really, really excited about Captain Ozzy.
Okay. I know recently you got a chance to speak at one of our clients' school and got to talk to the kids and everything.
Right.
How did those kids feel seeing a security officer, and what do you feel was the impression you left?
Well, love the kids, right? Marty Maud, love the kids. So that was a rewarding experience. I think that's also a next evolution is in public speaking because there is a lot for safety and self-defense that the average citizen needs to know. But it was greatly rewarding to know that the kids wanted to speak, wanted to ask questions, was interested in security services, see me as a not as an authority figure, but as a person there on their behalf. That was really cool. It's never happened
Awesome.
before, but to experience that let me know that we did have a voice in the schools. We can make an impact with the information that we have that we can download. So I was very excited about that and excited about the next evolution of that.
I like that. Your evolution being the impact that you make.
What's
So
your
as you
impact?
involve, so shall your impact involve. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
So our footprint just gets deeper. That's our impact, right?
Right.
So I want to say thank you so much. I enjoyed this
Thank you, baby.
conversation. I've had it with you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
I've had it with you before, but I thought this was an excellent idea, excellent presentation to share optimum security professionals with the public, with our friends, with our families, so they would know what we've been working on.
Yeah,
They
what you
see
do?
the truck.
What you do? Yeah.
They see the truck. They know
Right.
you went to school. They know you from here. They know you from there. Friends know I disappeared out of corporate America.
Right.
Well, this is what we've been doing. Optimum security professionals, providing customer-oriented protection, reestablishing the status quo. Thank you, Marshall.
Thank you.
We
Love you.
we love
Appreciate
you.
it.
And thank you
Thank
for
you for
being a
being here.
great leader for all
Thank
of
you for
the
walking with me.
employees and myself.
Thank you
And
for partying with me. I'm glad I'm not in this alone. All
most
that.
definitely.
Yeah.
So thank you again to the Gent Spot, a great local barbershop and lounge establishment. If you're looking for somewhere on the west side of Houston, or you're just looking for somewhere awesome to come out, get a good haircut, I did
You
earlier.
stay fresh. Thank you, Tiffany. Appreciate
and
you.
come out and have a drink, watch a game. So thank you again to Mel and Paco for allowing us this time to sit down. I'm going to finish this game of teaching him another lesson, making an impact on him. You guys take care.